Billionaire catches his fiancée, kicking his daughter. What happened next shocks. Don't you dare cry in front of me. Her scream ripped through the mansion just before the sound of a heel striking flesh. Lucas froze, then ran heart-pounding. In the living room, he saw Veronica Hayes standing over his 10-year-old daughter, her shoe raised again. "Your brat needs to learn respect," she shouted. Lily lay trembling, blood tracing down her temple. Between sobs, she whispered, "She said Mommy's music was garbage." The shattered music box played one broken note. Lucas's voice turned cold. "If you ever touch my daughter again, I swear you'll regret it." Thunder crashed outside. Inside, love died. What would you have done in his place? Welcome to Emotional Echoes, where emotions come alive and every story leaves a lasting echo in your heart. Please subscribe, help us reach 1,000 souls, and tell me where you're watching from. Now, let me tell you what really happened that night. Lucas Moreland had spent years learning how to silence the world. As the CEO of a major tech company, he knew how to command a room, how to keep his emotions neat, controlled, hidden. But that afternoon, nothing could prepare him for the sound that waited behind his front door. He came home early, holding a small music box wrapped in silver paper. It was the same kind his late wife once gave their daughter. He imagined the look on Lily's face when she opened it, how she would spin the tiny ballerina with her small fingers, humming along like her mother used to. He wanted to see that smile again. The moment he stepped inside, the air felt off. Then a sharp voice cut through the silence. "Stop crying, you're not a baby." His body froze. The next sound was a crash, the kind that made his stomach twist. He ran toward the noise, heart pounding. At the end of the hallway, he saw her. Veronica Hayes, the woman he thought he might marry, was standing over his daughter with her heel raised high. "If you ever talk back to me again," she shouted, and before Lucas could reach them, her shoe came down hard. Lily fell backward, hitting the wooden floor. The little girl's music box flew from her hand and shattered, the ballerina spinning one last crooked note before it went silent. Lucas stopped breathing. Veronica turned, startled, but her face quickly hardened. She crossed her arms. She needed to be taught some respect. "She thinks she runs this house." Lily curled into herself on the floor, sobbing, blood from a small cut streaking down her temple. She said in a trembling whisper, "She said Mom's music is trash." Lucas's voice broke when he spoke. "Get away from her." Veronica laughed, shaking her head. "She needs discipline, Lucas. You're too soft." He shouted again, louder this time, raw and sharp. "I said get away." He rushed to Lily, lifting her into his arms. Her body trembled against his chest. He could feel her heartbeat hammering fast and shallow. Veronica stared at him like he was the one who had lost his mind. "Don't look at me like that. You knew she hated me." Lucas met her eyes, his jaw tight. "You hurt my daughter, and you just ended everything." She tried to speak, but he was already walking away. Lily's arms wrapped around his neck, her voice small against his shoulder. "Daddy, it hurts." "I know, sweetheart," he whispered. "I know." Rain poured outside as he carried her to the car. Each step echoed through the marble floor, like the sound of something breaking beyond repair. Behind him, the house stood quiet. The music box lay on the floor, ballerina broken, one arm reaching upward, as if still trying to dance. 6 months before the day everything fell apart, Lucas met Veronica Hayes at a charity gala in downtown Seattle. The event was called Save the Children, a night filled with speeches, champagne, and polished smiles. He didn't plan to stay long. Fundraisers were always loud, crowded, and full of people who talked about empathy like it was a brand. But then she appeared, Veronica, a woman in a soft blue dress, her hair swept back, her eyes the color of winter glass. She carried herself like someone who had learned to survive among people who never truly saw her. She told him she grew up without a mother, raised in foster homes that changed as often as the weather. She said birthdays didn't mean much back then, but she always wished for a home that didn't feel temporary. There was something about the way she said it, calm, steady, without self-pity that pulled Lucas in. He understood loneliness. He had buried a wife, built an empire, and yet still went to bed each night with the sound of silence heavier than sleep. For the first time in years, someone looked at him and didn't see the CEO. She saw the man underneath. At first, Veronica was light. She laughed at his dry humor, listened without interrupting, and had a way of making even simple things feel important. When she met Lily, she knelt to the girl's height and smiled gently. "Every little girl deserves to feel loved," she said, handing her a bracelet made of paper beads. Lily smiled shyly, clutching it like treasure. Lucas watched the exchange and thought, maybe this was what second chances looked like. Veronica didn't rush things. She called sometimes just to ask about Lily's ballet or how Lucas was managing work stress. Her voice was soft, measured, always knowing when to say the right thing. When she eventually came over for dinner, she brought a bouquet of white lilies and a homemade pie. She even helped Lily with her homework, laughing when the girl's pencil rolled off the table. Lucas watched them together and felt something thaw inside him, a feeling he hadn't trusted in years. But not everything was as effortless as it seemed. One evening, as Veronica reached over to fix a stray lock of hair behind Lily's ear, the girl's smile faded, almost instantly. It was subtle, a blink, a flinch, then nothing. Lucas missed it. He was pouring wine, distracted by conversation. But that moment stayed, quiet and invisible, like a shadow waiting for its hour. When Veronica moved in, it felt like the next logical step. She filled the house with her scent, her structure, her presence. She said she wanted to help make their lives easier. For a while, she did. She reorganized the kitchen, redecorated the hallway, even helped Lucas set up a new bedtime routine for Lily. The house looked cleaner, sharper, but also colder. Lily's drawings disappeared from the refrigerator, replaced by to-do lists and notes about schedules. Soon, new rules appeared. Lily was told to call her Miss Veronica instead of Aunt Veronica. Veronica said it was about respect. The girl obeyed quietly, though her eyes dimmed every time she said the words. Lucas didn't question it. He thought Veronica was trying to teach discipline, something he often felt too soft to enforce. When Lucas traveled for work, Veronica texted updates. "Everything's fine. Lily's doing better. She's learning boundaries." But when he came home, Lily seemed smaller, somehow quieter, her steps lighter, like she was afraid to make noise. He asked if she liked having Veronica around. She hesitated, then said she was okay. That word haunted him later. One night, he passed by Lily's room and heard Veronica's voice through the baby monitor he'd forgotten to unplug. "Your dad only keeps you because he feels guilty," she whispered. Lucas froze. The sound cut through him like a knife. He stood there, waiting, but before he could react, Veronica's tone changed. She began reading a bedtime story, her voice soft and loving, like nothing had happened. He walked away, convincing himself he must have imagined it. Maybe stress was playing tricks on him. Maybe she meant something else. That was how it began, the slow unraveling of trust, disguised as care. Veronica knew how to give comfort when he was lonely, how to pull back when he needed space, how to wear empathy like perfume. She was kind when he was watching, cruel when he wasn't. Lucas believed her calmness was strength, not control. He mistook her composure for love. He thought he had found a woman who would help him rebuild the life he'd lost. But in truth, he had let a stranger into the last unbroken part of his world, and she was already learning where to strike first. At the hospital, Lucas sat in silence beside Lily's bed. The doctor said she was fine, no concussion, no broken bones. Physically, she was safe. But when the doctor lowered his voice and said the word trauma, Lucas's heart clenched. Lily wouldn't speak. She just stared at the wall, holding the cracked ballerina from her music box in her palm, like it was the only thing left in her world. Lucas promised her it was over, that no one would ever hurt her again. She didn't answer, just closed her hand tighter around the broken figure. When night fell, Lucas drove home. The rain was relentless. Each drop felt like a question pounding on the windshield. What had he missed? How long had this been happening? The closer he got to the house, the heavier the guilt became. He wasn't sure what he would say to Veronica, only that something inside him had gone quiet, the kind of quiet that comes before a storm. When he opened the door, the house was dark except for the faint light from the living room. Veronica sat on the couch, legs crossed, a glass of red wine in her hand. She didn't look surprised to see him. She smirked slightly, tilting her head. She tripped. "Lucas, you know how kids are. They cry over everything." He didn't respond. He stood there, rain dripping from his coat, watching her like she was a stranger in his home. She poured more wine, her tone sharper. "You're not really buying her story, are you? She's manipulating you, just like her mother did." That word hit him hard. He took a step closer, his voice low and steady. "Don't lie to me." Veronica's smile faltered for a second. Then she scoffed. "Oh, come on. You think you're some perfect father? You think you can just walk away from me after everything I've done for this house? For you?" Lucas clenched his jaw. "You didn't build anything, Veronica. You destroyed it." Her eyes flashed. She stood, slamming her glass on the table, wine spilling like blood across the surface. "No one throws me out," she snapped. "You can't just erase me because your little princess can't handle being told no." He took a step closer, and his voice changed. Calm, quiet, dangerous. "I'm not erasing you. I'm ending this. Go upstairs. Pack your things. You're leaving tonight." For a moment, she just stared at him, eyes wide. Then anger swallowed her whole. "You'll regret this, Lucas. You think anyone will love a man like you? You're broken. Everyone knows it." She grabbed the crystal vase from the table and hurled it. It shattered against the wall, shards flying across the floor. Lily's voice broke the chaos. "Daddy!" She was standing halfway down the stairs, trembling, her small hands gripping the railing. Lucas turned instinctively. Veronica's face twisted. "You're still letting her run this house," she screamed. Lucas moved toward the stairs, but his foot caught on the rug, and he slipped. His hand hit the glass, slicing his palm open. Blood dripped to the floor, mixing with rain blowing in through the open window. He stood up slowly, his face pale but steady. "Get out," he said, his voice low, final. Veronica shook her head in disbelief. "You'll regret this. Without me, you're just a broken man with a broken kid." She grabbed her purse, pushed past him, and slammed the door behind her. Silence followed, not peace, just absence. Lucas turned to Lily, who was crying quietly. He climbed the stairs, wincing from his cut hand, and lifted her into his arms. She buried her face into his neck, her words muffled. "Please don't let her come back." He held her tighter. "She won't, sweetheart. She won't ever come back." Downstairs, the wind blew the curtains aside, and the sound of the broken music box drifted faintly from the floor. The ballerina still tried to turn. Her music bent and cracked, like a song remembering how to breathe. Lucas sat with Lily in his arms, listening to that broken tune echo through the empty house, knowing that nothing would ever be the same again. The morning after Veronica left, the house felt heavier than silence itself, the kind of quiet that made every sound echo too loudly. Reporters camped outside the gates, flashes of cameras breaking through the mist. Headlines multiplied faster than truth could travel. Billionaire CEO accused of assaulting fiancée. Exclusive source claims, explosive argument. Every story twisted what happened into something uglier. Lucas didn't fight it. He didn't have the strength. He stayed inside, moving like a ghost between rooms that no longer felt like home. Lily's room became his refuge. She still refused to sleep alone, so he sat by her bed most nights, reading softly until her breathing steadied. The cracked ballerina rested on her nightstand, still missing an arm. When he wound the box, the melody stuttered thin, uneven, fragile, but it played. Lily said she liked it that way. "Because broken songs," she whispered once, "try harder." Lucas smiled weakly but couldn't answer. Days bled into weeks. He stopped answering calls, ignored his company's statements, and left his phone face down on the table. The outside world spun with noise, but inside, everything slowed to a crawl. Lily drew often, but her pictures were darker now, grey skies, empty rooms, and a little girl standing under rain. Sometimes she tore them up before he could see. One afternoon, Lucas almost broke his silence. His lawyer begged him to make a statement. Cameras waited outside, and he stood by the window rehearsing words he didn't believe. But then he saw Lily sitting on the couch, watching the television news without blinking. His own face flashed on the screen beside words like violence and rage. Her hand trembled as she clutched the remote. He turned off the TV, walked over, and knelt beside her. "The world doesn't need to hear my voice right now," he said quietly. "It just needs to see me here." Nights were the hardest. Sometimes the guilt came in waves, pulling him under before he could breathe. He replayed that moment, Veronica's heel raised, Lily's scream again and again, until it blurred with his dreams. He wondered if he could have stopped it sooner, if maybe the signs had always been there and he chose not to see. One rainy evening, Lily broke the silence. She was sitting by the window, watching raindrops race down the glass. Her voice was small but steady. "Dad, if music breaks, can it ever play again?" Lucas hesitated, his throat tightening. He sat beside her, searching for the right words. "Maybe not the same tune," he finally said, "but sometimes, when it plays again, it's softer, more honest." Lily thought about it for a while. Then she reached for the broken music box and turned the key. The ballerina spun awkwardly, one arm gone, the notes uneven. Yet there was something beautiful in the imperfection, a melody that didn't hide its cracks. Lucas watched her, then leaned down and kissed the top of her head. The rain outside softened into a quiet rhythm. For the first time in weeks, he let himself breathe. The house was still silent, but it no longer felt empty. The broken song had found a way to keep playing, and maybe, just maybe, so could they. 3 weeks later, justice arrived not with lawyers or courts, but with truth. A former housekeeper who had once worked in the Moreland mansion uploaded a short video to the internet. It came from the home's old security system. In it, Veronica was standing over Lily, her face twisted in rage, waving a high heel like a weapon. Her voice was clear and cruel. "You think you can cry and get away with it? Grow up." The clip lasted only 30 seconds, but it was enough to set everything on fire. Within hours, the hashtag Justice for Lily flooded every platform. People shared the video with disbelief and fury. News anchors dissected it frame by frame. Commentators who once defended Veronica now turned against her. Her brand partnerships vanished overnight. One luxury company released a statement cutting ties immediately, saying it did not support violence in any form. Lucas didn't say a word. He refused interviews, ignored calls, and kept his focus on Lily. But everywhere he looked, the world was finally seeing what had happened behind closed doors. For the first time, silence worked in his favor. Truth didn't need him to speak. It was already loud enough. Days later, Veronica reappeared online. She went live from what looked like a hotel room. Her eyes were swollen, mascara streaked down her cheeks. She sobbed into the camera, saying she had lost control, that stress had broken her, that she truly loved Lucas and Lily. She begged the world to stop judging her. But the internet had no sympathy left. The top comment read, "Love doesn't hit children." Another said, "You didn't lose control. You showed who you were." The video went viral again, not as an apology, but as a warning. She disappeared from social media after that, deleting her accounts one by one. The noise began to fade, replaced by quiet, the kind that comes when the truth finally settles. Lucas's company urged him to speak, to clear his name officially. He agreed to one press conference, short and simple. He stood at a small podium in front of reporters and cameras. His suit was plain, his voice calm. He said, "Out of respect for everyone involved, I won't go into details. But I do want to say this: love without kindness is cruelty wearing perfume." Then he thanked them and walked away. There were no follow-up questions. The sentence spread everywhere, quoted, reposted, turned into headlines. It wasn't just a defense. It was a statement of what mattered most. That evening, Lucas sat with Lily in the living room. The television still glowed faintly from the coverage, but the volume was off. Lily rested her head on his arm, holding the repaired music box in her lap. When she wound it, the tune was still uneven, but it played. Lucas looked at her face in the soft light, tired but peaceful. For the first time in months, there was no fear in her eyes. He exhaled slowly, as if letting go of a weight he'd been carrying too long. Outside, the rain had stopped. Inside, for the first time in a long time, there was quiet. Real, gentle quiet. It happened on a soft Saturday morning in early spring. The air smelled of rain and paint, the kind that carried hope instead of sadness. Lucas took Lily to a small art workshop downtown, a quiet space filled with brushes, colors, and the hum of gentle music. It had been his therapist's suggestion, something to help Lily reconnect with the world. She hadn't smiled in months. She rarely spoke to anyone except him, but he brought her anyway, hoping that maybe somewhere between the colors she might find a little light again. Lily sat by the window, drawing the same thing she always drew: her music box, the tiny ballerina, the cracks, the missing arm. Over and over again, she traced its outline with quiet focus, as if keeping it alive with her pencil. Across the room, a woman noticed her. Grace Parker, 31, an art teacher and single mother, was guiding a group of kids with gentle patience. She had a calm way of moving, the kind that made people lower their voices around her. When the class ended, Grace walked toward Lily and knelt beside her. She didn't ask questions or comment on the drawing. Instead, she said softly, "You fixed it, didn't you? That takes courage." Lily hesitated, surprised. No one had ever said that before. Grace smiled, her voice light but sure. "I used to fix my old toys with glue, but you fix things with your heart." Something shifted. For the first time in months, Lily's lips curved upward, a small, uncertain smile. It wasn't wide, but it was real. Across the room, Lucas froze. He had been pretending to check his phone, but when he heard that sound, that tiny laugh escaping his daughter's lips, something inside him cracked open. His eyes filled before he could stop them. The tears came without warning, quiet and raw. Grace looked up, saw him standing there, and for a moment, their eyes met. She didn't say a word. She just walked to him and gently rested her hand on his shoulder. A simple gesture, but it steadied him more than any words could. After that day, Grace became a part of their rhythm. She taught Lily to paint not just what she remembered, but what she dreamed of. They painted ballerinas with whole arms, skies that rained light instead of sadness. Sometimes they painted silence wide, calm spaces with color that breathed. Lily began to talk more, laugh more, move more. One afternoon, she even twirled like she used to, the sound of her repaired music box spinning in the background. Grace often stayed after class to clean brushes. Lucas started helping, quietly at first. They talked about small things, favorite colors, childhood memories, her son Ben's obsession with dinosaurs. She told him she worked 2 jobs and still believed kindness could change the world. He told her he used to think money could. Their conversations never rushed. They just existed, like air finding its way into a sealed room. One rainy evening, Grace dropped by their home to bring Lily's finished painting. The house looked warmer now. A candle flickered on the counter, and soft music filled the space. Grace glanced around and smiled. "It feels lighter in here," she said. Lucas almost laughed. It hadn't felt that way in a long time, but with her standing there, it suddenly did. Later that night, after Lily went to bed, Lucas found himself thinking about Grace's hand on his shoulder, the calm in her eyes, the way she didn't try to fix him, just stood beside him. Maybe healing wasn't about forgetting the pain, he thought. Maybe it was about finding someone who reminded you were still alive. He didn't know where it was going. He just knew that when Lily laughed again, he had cried and someone was there to see it, not as weakness, but as proof he still had a heart. And somehow, that made all the difference. A year later, the Moreland house no longer felt like a memory of pain. It had become a home again, warm, lived in, and imperfect in the best way. Lily's laughter filled the kitchen in the mornings, and the faint sound of her ballet shoes echoed down the hall in the evenings. The walls, once heavy with silence, now carried her drawings, her father's photos, and Grace's handmade crafts from her art class. The ghosts had left, replaced by something gentler, peace. Lucas had changed too. He no longer checked his phone every few minutes or hid behind work. He walked Lily to school, stayed for her performances, and learned to cook her favorite pancakes, always too thick, always a little burnt. But she said they were perfect because he made them. Sometimes, Grace joined them for dinner with her son, Ben. They talked about ordinary things, homework, weather, laughter, and somehow, those simple things felt extraordinary. The day of the foundation's launch came quietly. Lucas named it the Lily Foundation, created to support children who had faced trauma and help them rediscover joy through art and music. The logo was simple, a small ballerina standing inside a half-open music box under a soft drizzle of rain. It wasn't just a charity, it was a promise that no child would have to feel alone the way Lily once did. The event was held at the same community center where Grace's art class had begun. The hall was decorated with drawings from children across the city. Grace helped organize the art exhibit, while Lily prepared for a short ballet performance. Lucas stood by the entrance, greeting guests and journalists. For the first time in years, he didn't feel the weight of people's eyes. He felt proud, not for his wealth, but for surviving long enough to use it differently. When the lights dimmed, Lily walked onto the small stage wearing a pale pink dress. Her hair was tied in a loose bun, a tiny ribbon on her wrist. The repaired music box sat beside her, its surface polished, the ballerina fixed with both arms once again. She wound it gently, and the melody began soft, clear, steady, not broken anymore. She danced slowly, gracefully, moving like the music was carrying her rather than following it. The audience watched in silence, but Lucas didn't hear them. He only heard the sound of her laughter from years ago, the one he thought he'd lost forever. Grace stood beside him, her eyes glistening. When Lily finished, the applause rose like a wave. Lucas's chest tightened, but this time, not from pain, from gratitude. He stepped onto the stage, placed a hand on Lily's shoulder, and turned toward the microphone. His voice was quiet but strong. Love isn't the music we play for others. It's what we protect when the world goes quiet. The room fell still for a moment before erupting in claps and cheers. Grace smiled at him, and he smiled back, a silent exchange of everything they'd endured. After the event, they walked outside together. The sky was softly grey, the kind that promised rain without fear. Lily held her father's hand, while Grace walked beside them. Suddenly, a light drizzle began to fall. Lily lifted her face toward the sky and spun, laughing as the raindrops landed on her cheeks. Lucas and Grace stopped to watch her. The music box, now resting in Lily's other hand, played faintly through the rain. The sound was pure this time, not perfect, but whole. Grace whispered, "She's free now." Lucas nodded. "So are we." They stood there, three silhouettes, beneath the soft rain. The world around them washed clean. The camera of life might have pulled back then, catching the small family framed in gold light and silver drizzle, the sound of the music box blending with the rain. And if someone were telling their story, they would say softly, "Sometimes the music doesn't stop when it breaks. It just waits for love to fix it." From the moment Lucas met Veronica to the night his world fell apart, his story was never just about betrayal. It was about rediscovering what truly matters. Through pain, he learned that love isn't proven by words, but by protection. And through his daughter's healing, he learned that even broken hearts can sing again. Sometimes, what breaks us doesn't end us. It teaches us how to love, deeper, softer, truer. If this story touched you, share your thoughts in the comments and let your heart speak. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Emotional Echoes so more souls can feel these stories. Thanks for listening.